we see that art is in crisis right now, but that's really a mirror or reflection of how society's in crisis.
On the ride home from my art opening on the Lower East Side, crossing over the bridge to Brooklyn, I spoke about some ideas relevant to a critique of the New York City and broader art world. It's about the art world in crisis.
People are really struggling because there's a lot of nihilism in the culture, and artists are responding to the nihilism, meaning like that people don't feel like they have purpose, and the schools taught them postmodernism to deconstruct everything. But when you get hammered with deconstruction and deconstructionism and like kind of like breaking down meaning, you don't feel like there's like a cohesiveness or like a reason to do anything, and in fact there kind of isn't a reason for you to do anything, let alone make art. So you end up with a lot of art that kind of feels half-baked in like simple language. So what happens if artists don't feel like they can be sincere anymore? What happens if culture is so devoid of meaning that people don't feel like they can be genuine? Can that even be art? What really happens is people end up talking about eroticism or materialism, what's called decadence. So one thing that I'm looking at is, it is possible to make art with sincerity. But the way to tap into a genuine feeling is to do it where it's not from you, but from what they talk about as the unconscious. So it is possible to be sincere. One way that people are like that we see people trying to be sincere is like the sort of, it's the mango that I ate for breakfast. But the thing with like just making things super personal is that it doesn't really have relevance to everyone. It feels very narcissistic and shallow. So really, we see that art is in crisis right now. But that's really a mirror or reflection of how society's in crisis. As an artist myself, and what I'm thinking about is I don't feel that I'm in crisis. I feel that that it's just that what's revolutionary now is kind of having this attitude of connecting to something bigger than you. You really have to dig deep into the depths of being where meaning is inherent. Personally, I'm not anti-capitalist, so if you want to make art, paintings that are a luxury good, that's like decorative or has a use for interior design or in someone's collection, I think that's a nice thing to do. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think that art necessarily has to escape that utility, but there's also an aspect to art that people have a desire for. It's like beyond utility, we're just seeing a lot of like shallow art, and either it's shallow because it's just about like sort of like my interior, like my shallow interior life, or it's shallow in another sense that like people are just like fabricating meanings, like they're pretending they care about the environment or something, or like identity issues, and it's really played out. I've been working for a few years to like kind of find like, okay, well, where does like a sincere work of art come from? And for me, it has to come from a place very deep. Like, you have to go deeper, and the thing about going deeper for me is that when I found that I went deep, that the images have a healing quality to them. One thing I've been talking about with my studio manager Johannes, who's like a real philosopher type, is like the concept of a talisman. A talisman is the idea that you can make an image, and that image will be healing. So it's possible for us to like utilize images, not necessarily in a religious way, but in a psychological way, to sort of evoke meaning and purpose. The images like that we see in our dreams, and that we see in myths and stories that are evoked out of the collective unconscious, have like a inherent meaning to them, like a tree or a flower. And that type of beauty and that type of organization, that's like sort of natural. You could say it's an aspect of nature, of God. That to me is what I call the talisman in art.